This is donut making for kids, super fun recipe. It's a special event recipe. This would not be something that one would consider super healthy. It has quite a bit of butter and some sugar in it, but super fun. Ingredients are 1 egg, farm fresh egg from Lucy and Jack, sugar, flour, salt, vanilla extract, yeast, 3/4 cup of milk, and a whopping 1/2 cup of butter. The recipe begins with the liquid ingredients, so we're going to put the milk and the egg and the sugar in together and mix. These ingredients are at room temperature. I took them out a little while ago so they'd be warm, so that the yeast will rise. 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup. I have a wire whisk. I'm just going to mix that up. Okay, and add the yeast. 1 tablespoon of yeast is a little bit more than a package, so it's like a package and a half. 1 tablespoon yeast. Mix that around a little bit. One teaspoon of salt. Butter is at room temperature, so it's soft. Butter is really hard when it's cold. This is pretty mushy. Mix that up. It doesn't mix very well until you add the flour. It's just kind of getting the ingredients started. I think you noticed probably that I had cut the butter into pieces so that it's not one big log. It's several pieces, several tablespoons. Okay, 2 tablespoons of vanilla, and then I'm going to start adding flour. 2 teaspoons. Did I say teaspoons? That's what I meant to say. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then it takes about 3½ cups of flour, sometimes a little more. And I'm going to begin with 2 big cups and mix, and then just keep adding until I get dough that's kind of smooth. The wire whisk will only work for a little while, and then it'll start sticking. And then it'll be time to switch. But I got my butter so soft that it will be happy to mix up with the flour. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to start adding flour until the rubber scraper doesn't work anymore, and then I will knead it. Onto my clean countertop. I didn't mention at the top because I know all you smart bakers know that before you begin you should wash your hands, and since we're making a kneaded dough, you of course rinse really, really carefully. Make sure there's no soap on your hands when you start kneading dough. Okay, here we go. Because this dough has a lot of butter and a little bit of sugar in it, it feels different than a lighter dough. It's heavy. I'm going to use my 1/4 cup and just keep adding flour so that it doesn't stick to my hands, but not add very much at a time. Okay. When it's a soft ball, a smooth ball, and all the ingredients are well incorporated, we will need to let it rise for about an hour and a half until it's doubled in size. You could also, with this recipe, and this is a fun way to do this recipe, you could do this much before you go to bed on Friday night or Saturday night, and then when you get up for your stay-at-home day, your Saturday or your Sunday, you could put this in the refrigerator, and when you get up in the morning, take it out of the refrigerator and let it rise for about a half an hour to get back up to room temperature, and you'll be ready to roll your donuts in the morning. Okay, so that's a good, nice round ball of dough. I greased this ahead of time. It has butter in it so that it won't be sticky. Twist and flip, and then I have this to go over it. And then you put it in a warm spot for about an hour and a half, or if it's nighttime and you want to finish your donuts in the morning for your breakfast treat, you could put this in the refrigerator and get it up in the morning. I did that. I got up early and got started so that I could show you. This dough is already risen. You can see it's puffy a little bit. So the next step for us is to roll and cut out the donut. I have a donut cutter that has been passed on through my family. You can see what it looks like. It has a little thing in the middle to make the donut hole. But you could do this with two glasses that are of different sizes if you wanted to, or a large biscuit cutter and a small biscuit cutter. You just need to have something that would go. And of course, if you had a bigger glass, you could make a bigger donut if you'd like. So the way this goes is I should put a little flour down. This comes off of the counter pretty easily, but it is a little bit sticky, so probably a little flour would help us. And this is my rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a hard plastic glass. That works pretty well as well. You want it to be about a ½ inch thick. When you're rolling, you go from the center towards the edge, and you're trying to put even pressure all the way so that the dough is about the same thickness all the way. You don't want it to be thicker on the edge than in the middle, or thick here and thin here, because otherwise you'll have some donuts that are burned and some that are undercooked. You want them all to be about the same size, as close as you can get. And then my biscuit cutter, whoops, the inside part fell out. Or if you're using glass, down you go. Make sure it goes all the way to the counter, and then pull it out. This dough will rise a little bit, so I usually pull it so that there's a really big hole in the middle so that it doesn't close up. And then there's a hole too. Roll it into a hole. Do all of the donuts. Okay. We're going to put these on a tray, either a grease tray, or if you use parchment paper, you can put parchment paper on the tray and put the donuts on there. And then they need to rise for about 20 minutes so that they're puffy. I'll show you what that looks like. These are the donuts that I did earlier today. They've risen for about 20 minutes. They're a little bit puffy, but not a lot. You don't want to let them rise too long because they'll continue to rise while they cook. So if you let them rise too long, what will happen is that they'll sink. And so about 20 minutes until they're a little bit bigger than they were when we started, just a little bit puffy. And then my oven is preheating to a very hot 400 degrees. So you'll want an adult to help you with that. That's a hot oven. Here are my holes. It's easier to see the puff with the holes. I'm taking them out of the oven, but the oven is not on. It's just in there for warm rising. My upper oven is not on. So you can see they're a little bit puffy. I'm going to put these into my hot oven, until they're about golden brown. So that's about 15 minutes. These are different. I love this recipe for kids because donuts that you buy in the store, most of them are cooked in oil, which is hot and very dangerous. So these are a little bit different from the donuts that you would buy at the donut shop or at your grocery store. And although these have a lot of butter in them, because they're baked and not fried, they're quite a bit better for you than, they're both safer and a little bit better for you than the donuts that you would buy at the grocery store or at the donut shop. So I'll let my donuts cook for about 15 minutes and then we'll come back and see what a finished donut looks like. These are my finished donuts, golden brown. I took them out to let them cool because the next step you need to touch the donuts, and of course you would want an adult to do that at home. Take them out of the oven. This is melted butter. This is cinnamon sugar, so about a half a cup or 3/4 cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. This is fun. Dip the top part in the butter. It's not hot anymore. I melted it and let it cool. And then into the cinnamon sugar. And I'll let it cool. The donuts are still warm. This is much better if the donuts are warm. It works pretty easily. If they're cold, it's a little harder. And then when you're done with all of these, the donut holes, you can just roll around in the butter and then in the cinnamon sugar. And that's a tasty's treat to start the day. Other ways that you can do this are to skip this stage and make a confectioner's sugar glaze, just confectioner's sugar, and follow the same procedure and let the icing drip off. This is my favorite. I like cinnamon sugar. So I hope you enjoy donut making with your kids.